and welcome to Ep13. It's now 7:45 p.m. local time. Temperature 25 degrees Celsius. Please remain seated and keep your seatbelt fastened until we have reached your final parking position and fasten seatbelt sign is switched on.
My name is Nakalama Shanta. I'm come from Uganda. I am 12 years old.
My name is Kamatrasa. I'm living in Uganda. I'm 11 years old.
My name is Linda. I live in Uganda. I'm 12 years old.
My name is Lil.
I live in Uganda.
I live in Uganda.
I live in Uganda.
I live
in Uganda.
In Uganda.
Emyaka jo muduzungu. Emyaka jo ni olina emyaka emeka?
7.
I'm 7 years old. Koboti, I'm 7 years old.
I'm 7 years old. Ay, wewe ni.
The borehole.
Alright, good evening guys. How is everyone doing? I hope you haven't got a cup of tea right now. I hope you've got a nice glass of water. Keeping hydrated. But you might be wondering why we are on in the evening. And it's because this morning we got about 90% of the way through this episode, and then the internet decided to cut out. So I thought 90% is not good enough, so we need to go all the way this evening. So we are running through the borehole, episode 13 of Cuppa with Tea, the borehole. So this is effectively a cuppa at tea time. So we are live again. Thank you to everyone that's dropped in. We might even find some new folks that haven't even seen these before because they actually have a job or they go out walking during the mornings rather than watching me at 11 o'clock, drink a cup of tea and talk about photography. But as the title suggests, this is about one of my biggest images that I've ever created and the journey and the stories that come with it. So we'll jump right into it. You've just seen the Tracy and her sisters at the borehole, so you know what they get up to and why they're going towards the borehole. So we're going to flick into the presentation right now. And so this is where it began. In 2017, this is me leaving after 5 weeks of photography and working in Uganda. So this is me on the I don't even know what they call it. Totally blanked out on what they call it. On the outside of Mama Muganda's house, just as they're about to throw me into a taxi. So on the left you have Afawa, and she's holding little Shokran, and he's actually running around and causing all sorts of trouble now, 4 years later. You have Mama Muganda, you've got Marishadi in the orange, you've got little Shira in the dress at the front, and then you've got Muganda in the green shirt. at the very front you've got Karim, and then you've got Samaya, and then you've got some guy with a snapback on, pulling the V's behind Uganda's head, always having fun. So this is 2017, just as I was leaving, being thrown away out of Uganda into a taxi cab and off to the airport. It's always a sad time because you know you're leaving for another year, but it's always a time where you've created something or formed an idea that you can leave with, which means you can ponder on that, and you know you want to come back. You know you have to come back. You're drawn back. And so this is where, in my mind, in that photograph there, I've got this vision of an image that I want to create. And I couldn't create it at the time because there wasn't enough time. But I took this next image, this one of the borehole, and it's a single image, just one shot, just to remind myself of what it looked like, so I can continue across the year to visualize the much larger, more complicated image that I wanted to take, and also figure out how to take it, because I really had no idea if it was all going to come together. So you have one little lad sitting on the edge of the borehole, but this was just opposite the house that I stay in the village in Uganda. When I first put these pictures up a few years ago, Jaffa Windsor, he's a really good friend, an amazing artist, and if you've seen the image Brotherhood of Kareem painted into the flag, then he's the artist for that. He's also an artist for, I guess now it must be thousands and thousands of African paintings that people have come and collected from Ginger and taken off around the world. So I'm definitely not the only one to have one on the wall. But this is a quote that he put in one of the Facebook comments underneath one of the images when it first came out. And he says, "The borehole is a meeting place for most people. The women gossip about last night a while. The young will play games while waiting their turn to collect water, forgetting to go home early. Fights are frequent due to those who want to skip the line of jerry cans, and it's a dating place for the youthful ones." So that's Jaffa, and that's a quote. And when I read that, it made me realise that the borehole is not just a place to go and get life-sustaining, life-saving, cleaner water. It's also a place that people can meet daily to catch up with one another. Not all of them are on Facebook, not all of them are so connected, but they know that daily, around the same time when the sun starts to go down and the heat of the day is gone, they all head towards the borehole. So it's not usual that you will see the men of the family go to the borehole, but you will definitely see the children, and you'll definitely see the mothers going to collect the water. And while they're there, it's a great time to catch up. And this is what I was trying to figure out, how I was going to catch or create an image that reminded me of that moment really during my trip. And so this is where that journey began, and I had left Uganda, and in that 9 months, a year that I was thinking about it, I started working out how I could do it, what it would look like. And I didn't just want an image of everyone scrabbling around trying to get through to the front of the queue to get water from the borehole. And you know, it's a daily occurrence. These families have to go and get that water. It's clean water. They don't have to travel all the way to the river to get it, and they don't have to scoop the water out of a watering hole that just isn't safe. These boreholes take water from the ground. Most of it is very healthy to drink, but a lot of times these guys will still boil it to, they'll drink, they'll wash, they'll eat with that water. Not the same water they wash in, obviously. But it was a real challenge to try and think of this image whilst I was at home and how I was going to put it together. But flying back in 2018, it was probably one of the only images I definitely wanted to get. So I needed to hang out for a couple of weeks and just enjoy catching up with everyone. And then the time was right, and I got a couple of the boys at the house to let some of the children know what the plan was, or what the rough plan was, and so they would be on board and they would be there at the right time. And so we head out. Sun's just going down. We head out on that first session, that first shoot. And in my head, I know what I want, but perhaps I hadn't communicated that well enough to everyone that was involved. So the first shoot, and there were two. These are images from the first shoot, and you can see that there's kids running around everywhere. That's Tracy in the red shorts running towards me at the camera. I'm about 50 feet away. I've got the tripod, I've got the Canon 6D, and I've got the 70 to 200. And I've zoomed in to about 115 mil to give myself a bit more of a closed perspective. And I'll go further into why and how I created the image in a second. But like I said, this is a place where people come daily, every day, to collect their water. And I am not in a position to stop them doing that. And I do not want to interfere. I do not want to get in the way. I just need to try and communicate what I want. And this first night, it was very difficult. There was mothers there that were just wanted to collect water. They weren't on board with what I was doing. And so I was trying to shoot around all of this action happening. And within about 4 or 5 pictures, I realized that it wasn't going to work out. So this is one of the first ones, and Afa was posing. She was on the pump. And then here's 4 more images of the guys. And you'll be able to see that lots of people are overlapping. The light's kind of changing throughout. People are moving all over the place. And with the type of image that I wanted to create, this wasn't going to work. So no bones about it. I was in a bit of a huff. I called it off. I said to David, don't worry about it. We'll come back and do it again. We went to the house. We looked at some of the pictures. And although they were well exposed and they were great pictures, they weren't what I wanted. So much like the session this morning didn't go quite to plan. It cut out before the end. I needed to go back and do it again, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And so regrouped, replanned, and reorganized. And the idea was I needed a clean panorama of the borehole itself with nobody in it to create like a background image that I could then add the people into. So a few days afterwards, the boys organised all the kids to be around. The kids all arrived at the right time. This time, the ladies and the families that arrived were a bit more hospitable towards the project. You can see all of the jerry cans were there. And honestly, the reason the kids were a lot more focused is because I offered lollipops. So anything you offer lollipops for, you can pretty much guarantee the kids will actually listen to you for about 20 minutes. So that's pretty much all the time I had. Tripod was set up in the same place, same sort of settings, slightly different time of day. This time the light was coming in from behind the hedge, and that was great because it was going to add a backlight to all the kids that were going to jump in the picture. Now, why did I take a panorama? Well, had I just taken a nice single wide shot of all the children standing there, it would have the perspective would have looked strange, and it would have been a very, very small picture. I visualized this huge, big picture, and to do that, I needed to combine images to make everything larger. So once the camera was set up, I created 4 pictures to create the wide panorama, and then that gets joined together, and that's what this looks like. So you can see there's families on the left and there's families on the right hand side. Most of the children were tucked away to the right hand side. I'd now got the right exposure. I'd got the images I needed to create my background. So now the next move was to put the children into the picture. And I didn't want this to be a hugely posed picture, but I wanted it to be original, and I wanted it to be something that I created with the kids. So the left hand side, I put 2 groups together because I needed kind of an end to the image. that would draw people in to move along the line. And then everyone else, sort of lots of people huddled around the pump, and then all the other guys spread out all the way along the fence. This was great. And then within 20 minutes, David and I were looking at each other. We'd got the lighting right. David would look at me. I would point from 50 yards away which direction I needed the light. I wasn't too worried about which way the kids were looking at me. Sometimes they looked at me. Sometimes they looked at the light. Sometimes they didn't even look at anything. So that's one of the first pictures of David with that group at the end. Here's another one with I think it's Brenda at the pump. So he's just lighting Brenda. That's all of that image is lighting. So he's moving along, and there's 37 children, and each one is getting lit as they move along. And so my main aim with this was that the kids weren't overlapping and they weren't running around, so I didn't get doubles. Don't worry, it's definitely not coronavirus. But there was about 25 images of the children, because sometimes the light would light a group of 4. So I didn't need 37 images. But these are the rest of the single images of all the children lit up. So that's what I was processing in my head. All I had to make sure was that I'd lit everyone. Everyone was lit from the right angles, and they were moving, and we were moving along the line, and everyone was in a good place. So that was that. I managed to finish it up within 20 minutes. Very quickly, all the kids had their lollipops. They were happy as Larry. They had no idea really what had just gone on, apart from they just looked towards the camera and had the flash popping around. But I knew in my head that it was a lot calmer, a lot more organised, and pretty much thought that I'd got the pictures that I needed to create the overall picture. And as I said before, I didn't want to just take one picture of the scene where everyone was milling around, because quite frankly, you could take that anytime. It needed to be a bit more artistic, and it needed to be a bit more of a collaboration between me and the kids in the picture, rather than just a snapshot from the outside. That's the only way I knew it would work. So I put the images on the computer pretty much that day, had a test with one of the other images, and just made sure that things were lining up, that the panorama worked, and then I put it away. I backed everything up and put it away. About probably 6 weeks after I got home, I had another look at it to edit, and over the course of the next year, through 2019, I think that's right, no, through the rest of 2018, I actually gave 3 solid attempts to edit the picture. And it was on around Christmas time, 2018, that I finally put everything together. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of layers in Photoshop. And I want to very quickly and concisely and try and tell you how I did it, without it getting too confusing, because some of you may be photographers, some of you may not, but either way. So you understand how I made the panorama. The panorama is the wide image, there's nobody in the picture. The camera doesn't move, the settings don't change. So wherever you put children along that line, if you're moving the camera left and right, the front to back distance is going to be the same, so they're going to be the same size, and they're going to be exactly where the rest of that picture is. So when they were all lined up, moving across that way or that way, wherever I took their picture, they would be in the correct position, or I would be able to line them up. So you may think this picture's a little bit blurry, but I've just made it slightly opaque so you can see that it's the picture overlaid on the top. And I did that with every individual image, one at a time, and each image is a layer. So that's why there's 30, 40 layers to create this one final image. Now, as we shift across, I will move into this video here, and you'll see as I'm going up on the right side, these layers are clicking on, and you'll see the kids appearing. So when I say layers in Photoshop, imagine each individual image is a scratch card. That scratch card has got a covering across the top of it All I'm doing is layering those up on top of each other and scratching out so you can see the person. Everything else is invisible. So you layer that on top, you scratch out the person, they're sitting exactly where they were shot, and you build the picture up like that. It's not necessarily that straightforward because it takes a very, very long time, but that's pretty much how the image came together. And if anyone's got any more questions about that, just fire them into the comments. And that's yeah, there you go. There's the that's the final image that I'd envisioned, that I'd visualized, and that's it come to life right in front of me as I was building it through the computer. Now, obviously, different layers get in the way of other layers, so you have to really work at getting them in the right place. And then I put everything from Photoshop into Lightroom, and then I do all the color correction, sharpening, and editing and post-production in Lightroom. It's a lot easier for me to control, and then I can crop the edges so those families that were on the edge are no longer at the edge. I can darken bits, I can brighten bits, but really it's the only way to create an image that big is to create it from individual images, and it only works if you've really thought about it at the start and got the technical decisions right at the beginning. If you did this as an afterthought, you'd be very lucky if everything lined up. But as you can see, all of the children have been lit all the way across by David, and you know, none of them are too overlapped, and they all kind of sit very comfortably together. They all brought their own poses, they weren't told to do anything special, and for me that's exactly the image that I wanted, because it's artistic, it's natural, and it's not chaos, and you can see that the children were a part of it. The worst thing, like documentary images of boreholes in action, brilliant, nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to create a specific picture like this that was testing myself technically, but also involving the community. Now, none of these children would have seen what was going on. They would have had no idea what was going to happen. So my mission was to take it back, the following trip, but this is just at Christmas that I've just completed this image. Within a week, I'd gone to my print lab in Launceston, More Creative Solutions, and we printed it as a 2-meter wide banner, and that's what's lying on my bed there. So if you think how long a double bed is, it's hanging off the double bed, so it's probably about 2 meters plus long, and I could only get it to that size because I'd managed to, it's been created out of many actual photographs, so many more pixels means I can blow it up a lot bigger. Had it been a single image, it just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have had the same effect. So super stoked, and got it printed out of More Creative Solutions. And within 3 days of that, I was flying off to Uganda for the 2019 trip and taking this print with me. The aim was to have a small exhibition opposite the borehole, hang the print up so all the kids could see it, and I would print out postcards whilst I was in Uganda, and they would all get themselves a copy of the print. So without further ado, I'm going to move across, and for the next like 5 minutes you're going to see the process of printing and then going back out to Uganda with this huge print. Unfortunately, David and I were so busy actually creating the image at the time, none of the behind the scenes was filmed, unfortunately. But it was probably just chaos and mud, sweat and tears, so no need to worry about that. But enjoy this film of the borehole, and you'll see all the kids seeing it for the first time, and it's pretty magical for me, and hopefully you can see the magic in it as well. So if this works, see you in 5 minutes. Hey guys, welcome back to More Creative Solutions, and it's less than 24 hours till I take the bus away to London and then off to Uganda, and I thought I'd drop in and print this bad boy. It's about 2.5 meters long, and it's called The Borehole. It's 37 children photographed, and it's taken over 45 layers to create the final image, but hopefully the next time you see it, it will actually be pinned up in front of the borehole, surrounded by a load of kids that are just laughing at themselves for being in the picture. At least they'll finally see what it looks like. So there it is, getting rolled up, and look forward to showing you it in maybe about a week, I reckon. Who's Bill? Where's Bill? You Bill? You want to be Bill? Yes. Yeah, this is not Bill, but it's Bill. Welcome to Bill's Digital Photo Lab in Jinja in Uganda. We've come all the way from Launceston in England, and we're just about to print 25 sets of these. We're going to chop them in half, so we've got 50 small prints of the borehole to give to all the children that are in the picture. So this is the bit where it all goes wrong and somebody loses a finger. Not my fault. No liability whatsoever. Oosh. The real Bill. So that's it. The journey for the borehole is almost complete. We've got 50 copies of the print on artboard, so it's nice and tough. I'm not sure what happened to this one. Someone's missing some ground, but it's been an interesting journey, and I'm looking forward to this afternoon for all the kids to see it and to give them back the print so they can keep it and take it home. Thanks, boss. Ali Sebo. So to make this a bit easier, we've decided to use this hedge on the back garden. We're using banana fibres as rope. And let's just see what happens. Might be one in the middle.
Steady. Shukrani wewe what?
I don't know.
He said no.
You can't wait. You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support. Sometimes you just gotta run and look behind you and say, everybody who wants to run, run, but I can't stop running because you're not running with me. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life won't chase it with you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life won't believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're gonna have to do it all by yourself.
You're in the same dress in there. borehole image is up, and this is what's happening around the corner. It's up on the hedge opposite the actual borehole, which has changed quite a lot. There's now no more fence there, and there it is. A lot of the kids have come and collected their small print, but I'm super chuffed that it's worked out and I've brought it back. And yeah, see what's next. Alright, we are back. So that is it's one of my favourite videos because it's, you know, the kids get to see their picture for the first time, and they'll be racking their brains thinking, when was that taken? I don't even remember that. And they may not remember that far back to it actually occurring, because it may not have been a big deal to them. But for them to see it was amazing. For them to point out their friends was brilliant. And for them to receive a little postcard of it themselves was, you know, really rewarding for me, because it feels like we bring everything full circle and they get given a print, so they continue to be part of the project. And for me, that you know, deepens the relationship I have with not only those kids. You know, there's a lot more trust there, but they're really, when they get their picture back, they're like, yes, we want to do it again. And so within a few days of this is when we did Dream Studio. So when we talked last week about Dream Studio, that happened right after this. So actually we've been working backwards towards where it all began at the borehole. So from this point to move forwards, I needed to have all of the individual kids' names in a row, in the order that they were standing, because that helps me tell more of a story. It helps me connect. And the ideas that I had brewing at this point was about connecting people with postcards. So that's exactly what happened on the next element, the next journey of this this image. It instigated a small exhibition back home in England, and then the children from England wrote to the children that are in the borehole image, and now I've got the postcards that I'm going to deliver back in the next few months when the world opens up again. But we'll quickly flick into this page, and it's a really simple way for me to see the image and have all the names in the right order. So it's, you know, it's, for me it was, I don't want to say it was groundbreaking, but I was breaking new ground taking images like this for myself. And there was a question earlier on about, was I influenced by any other photographers with this style? Not exactly. The year before, in 2017, I'd taken an image called Night School, and it just occurred to me that if I could shoot one kid in a photograph and have the light, and then remove the light and David out of the picture, then why couldn't I just multiply that and do it with many children? And so by thinking about that and thinking how I could apply it to this, I just needed to get the technical stuff and the organizational stuff right in my head, and then I could create this image. And quite honestly, if you have the time, the patience, and the organization, you could just create that with many, many, many people. You know, there was one image that I did see, and I forget the photographer. I think he's called Jeremy. He's a Hawaiian, and he's amazing photographer, works with a lot of NGOs. But he had this really wide picture of a scene where ladies were walking towards the borehole, but then they were also using the borehole. So it was like a combination of the two, but it was just a wide shot, and I kind of recognized that he had to do it in a couple of shots. So that's little ideas just instigate and think, wow, I could do that. And when you come across a scene that it would work in, if you can make that happen, or if I can make that happen, that's what I'll do. And I've done it since with much smaller images, but this is the biggest image that I've pretty much ever created. So those were that's the borehole journey. That is, the idea came in 2017. The photograph was taken, or photographs were taken in 2018. It was processed, and then it was delivered back in 2019. And other projects have continued on from that. So the borehole, you can read more on my website about it, but you've just heard it all now. And just like this morning when it cut out about 5 minutes ago, we're still going, which is great. And so whilst we're here and whilst it's the evening and whilst, you know, I'm about to go and have some dinner, what I'm going to do is quickly, a very quick thank you to everyone that has supported COVID-19 versus Uganda in phase 6. It's been truly amazing to see the families that have come forward and, you know, donated £10, £20 towards this incredible initiative. And I'm saying it's incredible because I never thought it would either go on for this long or gather this much momentum. So as it says at the top, just above my head, we are just short of 20,000 meals delivered. And in this phase, we actually, we pulled together £667. So half of the money has gone out to David today. So he has that and he's ready to roll. And the other half will go out later to the guys in the city team. And I've got it written here. We're aiming to get to 160 families. And based on 6 people in each family, roughly, that's 960 people. And at the low end, food for 5 days with 1 bowl of food a day, it's possibly going to be more, probably more. That is 4,800 bowls of food just purely from phase 6 and all of your amazing support. So thank you for that. It's going to take us well over 20,000, and as we move into phase 7, we'll have like a week off and then we will crack into phase 7. But you can continue to support at tommyhatwell.com. Just hit the big button that's at the top because your money will continue to go into all the different phases. And yeah, like I said, the team can't thank you enough. They are somewhere in these comments if they're still there. The boys will no doubt like and say a few words in there if they can. But there was something else that I was going to say that I've completely forgotten. But yeah, oh yeah, that's it. The team dinner, this thing, there it is, this thing here. Saturday night, whether you supported us or not, Saturday evening, have an amazing dinner with your family, your friends, your housemates, by yourself if it's a microwave meal. And just know that we're putting this initiative together to support families that cannot. And they would love to be able to support themselves, but they cannot work right now. They're on lockdown. They have to be in the house by 7 o'clock. That's if they have a house at all. They might not have electricity, power. Certainly many of them will not have Wi-Fi. So, you know, to know that there's people out there like us in the world that are supporting them. And when I say us, it's just not the teams. It's everyone that's included, everyone that shares, everyone that watches. It's incredible to know that each month they're going to get a small bag of food that will sustain them and their family for 5 to 7 days. And really, it's not just about the food. It's the mental side of it. It's knowing that somebody out there cares. Because right now, they're kind of stranded. They've got no way to earn their little money that they would spend on food. And they're incredibly worried about how they're going to feed their children. And when people get hungry, they get desperate. And when they get desperate, shit goes wrong. So we are going to continue this as long as we need to. So each phase will be different. Each phase will have a different direction. It might aim towards a different group. But just know that if you find yourself with a spare £5, £10, £2, £20, £100, you know, head to tommyhatwell.com, pop it into the PayPal button, and you will get a personal response from me via email. And you know that your 100% of your money goes out to support this project. But that's enough from me. If you were here at the start, you would have been. I would have checked your passport, and you would have been taken away on the aeroplane across Europe and into Africa and into Uganda and directly to the borehole. So now we're going to leave the borehole and we're going to go back to England. Unfortunate, but you guys, thank you very, very much. We have got 100% of the way through this one tonight because 90% is never good enough. Have a good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brussels. The local time is
9 a.m. Please remain seated and keep your seatbelt fastened low and tight around your waist until we've reached our final parking position and a fasten seatbelt sign is switched off.